Yo, this is Dark, and here's a guide to Mists of Tirna Scithe. Eee. First thing mentioned in this dungeon from the Shadowlands, the vines that used to only be accessible by Night Fae players can now be opened by people who have Herbalism, Druids, and I believe Night Elves, Taurens, High Mountain Taurens. Alright, starting with the trash in this place, you got the Drust Spike Claws that are going to do a bloodletting, which they'll leap to a range player, doing some damage and AoE damage to anyone around that player. You can have everyone stack in melee and have one person out there baiting all the jumps, so you're not putting it on the whole group. Also, when they die, they'll leave a swirly on the ground, so be aware of that. Next, we have the Harvesters, and they have the priority kick here with Harvest Essence. It's going to be a channel that's going to be doing damage to everyone and also healing the Harvester. So make sure you're kicking that and killing them. All right, next is the big dudes here, the Villagers. They're going to be doing a tank frontal, so make sure you're pointing that away from the group. And then they'll also be casting on a random player Overgrowth that's going to be channeling, doing damage to them, and then stunning them for 6 seconds. You'll have to rely on the other players to free you from that stun by killing the vines that are twisted around you. You already know for tanks, you're going to have Soul Cleaver here. They're going to be doing Soul Split. That's going to be doing a crap ton of shadow damage, but also increasing the shadow damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds. And this also stacks, so make sure you wear that. Pop cooldowns if you need to. Alright, and right before the first boss, you're going to be finding a couple of bow breakers that will do Furious Thrashing when you get them to 50%. So try not to push both of them to 50% at the same time if you can help it. And then they're also going to be periodically slamming puddles, roots, whatever you want to call them on the ground. You want to just keep tanking them away from those. First boss, Igra Maulock. For this boss fight, Igra has mind controlled one of our tall tree buddies here. You're going to want to be DPSing the plant person, get him down to 20% to break the MC to continue to actually damage the boss here. Once you free your tree buddy here, he's going to be casting Dramon's Wrath, channeling into him, stunning him, and increasing all damage the boss takes for 200% for 15 seconds. So if you're going to lust, this is where you want to do it. Alright, for the tree boy, he's going to have that same tank frontal that his other buddy had earlier, so make sure you face him away from the group and get out of it once he's casting it. He'll also do Tears of the Forest, which is going to be a bunch of blue swirlies that will be around where players are, so if you're grouped up, you can kind of bait them and then move to a clear area of the arena. And then for the homeboy Igra over here, he'll be doing a Spirit Bolt, which is kickable, so you can rotate your kicks to take care of that. And then he'll be doing Repulsive Visage, which is a 3-second fear that you cannot kick, so make sure you're bringing some cleansing for that. Death Knights, Lichborn, AMS, Warriors, you got your cleanse. If your group doesn't have any fear cleanses, just make sure that you don't have any swirlies behind you, because you always be feared away from the boss. And that's it for this mofo right here, just a bunch of rinse and repeating, pretty simple mechanics here. Alright, after being the first boss, you'll be heading down to the maze area. And before you get to the maze area, there's going to be a seed to your left side, so make sure you're getting that because that will be your new respawn point for any wipes. Alright, for the actual maze and getting through the correct fog door, you're going to have to go stand by these stumps that are around every door and look at the symbols. And basically, you want to find the symbol that has nothing in common with the rest of the symbols. And that will be your correct doorway. Alright, the maze trash. So you got the Mistveil Defenders. They got a couple abilities. They have Expel, which is a charge on a random player that will also knock them back doing some damage. And then they have Mistward, which is a swirly around them. Once that swirly is cast, they will leave a blue puddle on the ground. That blue puddle is going to reduce the damage them and their allies take and do nature damage to you if you're standing in it. So basically, tanks get them out of the puddle, pull them away, CC them out if you guys got like ROP or whatever. Then you got the Mistveil Stalkers that will do Mistveil Bite, and that will be a bite on a random player that will do a pretty heavy bleed. So if you need a cooldown, pop it. If you got some sort of cleanse for bleed, use that. Alright, in this maze, you're going to have a couple interrupts that are pretty important. One's going to be the Mistveil Shaper, who's going to cast Bramble Thorncoat, which is basically going to shield their allies, absorbing crap ton of damage. When it breaks, it's also going to root you guys. So you want to make sure you're kicking that. And then if it's on them, you can also purge it off. And then you got the Mistveil Tenders that will be healing their allies with Nourish, the goddamn forest. So make sure you're kicking that as a priority. There should be plenty of kicks to kick both the heal and the bubble. With every maze you get into here, there's going to be a mini boss you'll have to deal with. The Hydra Night Blossom dude will do a frontal, so make sure you're not standing in front of him unless you're the tank. He also has some poison green swirlies that he'll spit out, so dodge those. And then for the tank, he'll be doing 3-stack poison dot on you that you could cleanse off as well. And then if you get the frog, he'll do a jumping ability where he'll jump to a random player doing this little swirly, so get out of that. He'll do a big swirly around him, so make sure you're not standing in that. And then he also will try to do a frontal with his tongue pointing at the tank, but everyone can walk away from that and completely dodge it. The second boss, Mistcaller, the son of a butt. His first ability is going to be Dodgeball, where he'll shoot balls at all 5 players after a short delay, so make sure you're dodging those. They're indicated by the blue arrows all around him. He'll also cast Freeze Tag pretty close by to a random player. It will summon a fox that will be chasing you. You want to root it, stun it, CC it. Don't get close to it, because if you get close, it will freeze whoever's next to it for 14 seconds, and that usually leads to a wipe, so don't touch the fox. All right, for tanks, you're going to want to deal with Patty Cake. Kick it every time it casts. If you don't, she's going to be disorienting you and doing a holy amount of damage to you. So if you don't kick it, you're probably going to die, and it may lead to a wipe. Mistcaller also has an intermission phase, and it starts at 70, 40, and 10%. It's going to be guessing game, where she's going to be summoning 4 different illusions, and those illusions are going to have the same symbols that were throughout the maze, so you want to find the symbol that doesn't have anything in common with the other 3, and then kill that ad at the same time dealing with all their other mechanics. And that's it for Mistcaller. Once you beat her, you want to jump down after she clears the mist for you, grab that new spawn point that's right outside the little water puddle, and then head on down to the next boss. On the way to the third and final boss, there's going to be a bunch of bugs for trash. None of them are really important, except for the Spine Moss Staghorn, which you want to rotate all your kicks, because he's going to be doing a crap ton of stuff. Starting off, they have a ability called Stimulate Resistance that would put a huge absorption shield on all of themselves and their allies, so make sure you're kicking that. And then they have Stimulate Regeneration, which is a channel that's going to be healing their allies a crap ton. So make sure you're rotating kicks between the shield and the heal. And then they got Acid Nova, which you can't kick. You kind of just have to deal with this. So make sure you're popping cooldowns for that if you need to. And just make sure for this area, you're never pulling 2 of those Staghorns at the same time. You always want to just pull 1. You can pull all the other crap together. Just make sure you're not pulling 2 Staghorns. Otherwise, you guys are going to be shielding and healing the enemy. And other than that, there'll be some AoEs on players and from the other bugs that aren't that big of a deal. And then there'll be green swirlies on the ground that will knock you back. So make sure you're not by the ledge and just get out of the swirlies. And now the final boss, Tradova. For her first ability, she's got Acid Expulsion, which is going to be green acid swirlies being shot at your location. The next ones that she casts will spawn multiple swirlies, and they're going to kind of predict where you have moved before, so just make sure you're mixing it up on the movement so it confuses the boss. And continue to dodge all the swirlies. Next, she'll do Accelerated Incubation. That's going to summon some larva that's going to fixate on DPS and the healer. Tanks, you want to just make sure you're trying to pick those up, CC them, and kill them all. After killing the larvae, they will also leave a puddle on death, so be aware of that. Then she'll do Coalescing Poison, which is an AoE around her that she'll pull in players, so make sure you're using movement abilities like Death Advance, where you won't move at all. For her tank buster-ish kind of ability, it's going to be Mind Link, where the tank's going to be linked to other players that are nearby. You just want to run away from those other players to break the link, otherwise all the damage that those players are taking, the tank is also taking. So break the link and don't stand too close to the tank. Alright, and then for the ultimate ability here, at 70 and 40% health, she'll run to the middle of the room, start eating that little cocoon and channeling Consumption. While she's channeling it, she's going to gather a big shield all around her. You want to make sure you're breaking that shield and kicking Consumption. And at the same time, while she's spamming that, she'll be spamming swirlies, arcane swirlies everywhere, so continue to dodge all those. And that's it for her. Once you do that, it's rinse and repeat, and you beat the dungeon, you save the world, and you freaking peace out, dude. Good luck, have fun.